1, 2, 3, 4. What up, y'all? Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy Jermaine Babbles. How you guys doing? I think this audio sounds pretty fucking weird right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's one of the settings or some shit, one of the effects I have on here, but it's the same thing that I do week to week, so I'm not really sure. Maybe it's this room reverb. Maybe there's too much room reverb. Let me turn that down. I think that sounds... Does that sound better? I think that sounds even... I don't know. I think it sounds better. I don't know. Anywho, Babylon 5, episode 29. It's your boy Jermaine Babbles. How you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Welcome. Welcome to this episode. I'm going to give you guys the social medias. Going to go ahead and just throw you guys the social medias real quick before we go ahead and get on into it. If you guys want to follow the podcast on Instagram or Twitter, my handle for that is at Babylon 5 Pod. If you want to follow my personal accounts on Instagram and Twitter, my handle for that is at My Name's Jermaine. If you want to email the podcast, the email for the podcast is babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can follow the podcast. If you're listening right now, go ahead and set up a Podbean account. It's free, completely free. And it'd be cool if you just followed. If I got my followers up on there, or if you listen to the podcast on Spotify, do whatever, favorite the podcast or whatever you guys do. Like, I think you can rate the podcast on Apple Music. Just do the things, be diligent, help out, do whatever you feel like could help the podcast. Do your boy a favor. But go ahead and follow this podcast at babylon5.podbean.com. You can listen to the podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere that podcasts stream. If you guys want to add me on Xbox, my gamer tag is SauceBoss414. If you want to check out the merch, it's teespring.com/stores/BOFpod-shop. And, I'm trying to figure out this Twitch thing. I'm getting too old. I was so good with this technology before, at least I thought I was. But, I seem to be having a few, difficulties here. I tried to, anywho, but hopefully I can play some games with you guys soon. But so go ahead and add me so then you guys can get notifications when I actually do stream at twitch.tv/Babylon5. And that'll be cool. Those are the social medias that I'm going to shoot at you. I'm going to shoot you guys those social medias. Right now, first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to get into UFC 248. I'm watching the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, in the background as I talk to you guys. I just wanted to watch it again. We'll get into the result later. As throughout through the week, I was trying to be a little more diligent in taking notes on things that were happening in the lead up to this pay-per-view. And as far as the fight that I was most excited for was Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, however you pronounce it. And, I was saying how I was not a fan of a lot of the remarks, a lot of the racist posts that Joanna shared against Zhang Weili that really made me turn against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And then it was they had their stare down leading up to, it was a media day, and they had a stare down, and because they hadn't even had the weigh-ins. It wasn't the weigh-in and then the ceremonial weigh-in and then the face-off. It was just some media day check-in, and then they talked to the press, and then they all just came together for a face-off. and she's talking trash to Zhang Weili, and Zhang tells her to shut up. And at some point, Joanna's like, "You don't even know what I'm saying to you." Like, just mocking her for not being able to speak English, which was just like even more cringy. You know, it was not. I don't think it's more cringy than the gas mask photo, but it was pretty bullshit. Pretty bullshit statement there. So I was like, "Yo, Joanna's kind of racist." Coming in here, at least against Asians, it's seeming. At least against Asians. I'm not saying she's racist against every person of color, but clearly she seems to have some issue with Asians. Clearly. But at the same goddamn time, all right, they interviewed Zhang Weili, right? They interviewed Zhang Weili and they're like, "Did you know what she was saying?" And she was like, "Bitty ba, bitty ba." And I'm like, geeking the fuck out because it's like, is that like what Orientals? I'm sorry if that's a fucking crazy. Dan, is that racist? Did I just say something racist, or maybe I said something super right? Maybe I said something super right there. Okay. Anyway, people in Asian speaking countries. Oh my god. All right, so maybe people in China. We're talking about Zhang Weili. I was curious, because there's stereotypes of you've heard of people how they hear other people's languages. I was always curious. My wife was saying the same thing. I was curious how other people hear the English language. Like, how does it sound to them? And she every time she kept mentioning that Joanna was speaking, she was just like, "Bitty ba, bitty ba, bitty ba, bitty ba." I don't care what she was saying. "Bitty ba, bitty ba." And it was just geeking me the fuck out because it hurt. All right, it hurt. It hurt. That's what we sound like. It's bitty ba, bitty ba. It hurt. It hurt so bad. But that was fucking fire. Like, I was like, at that point, I was like, Zhang's already won this fight. That bitty ba just won the whole fight for me. All right, it was over at that. It was over at the first bitty ba. Okay, the fight was over. So I wrote here in these notes, if we're gonna get into the card in the second fight, I wrote that it was a terrible judge. But then I thought about, like, in that fight, so, and everybody was posting on Twitter that it was terrible judging to start out with the second fight. But when I thought about it, I was like, in the second fight, I forget the name, but like, the second guy, it was Giga Chikaze is fighting this black guy, Jamal Emmers. And yeah, everybody thought Emmers won that fight. But then when I thought back on it, like, Chikaze clearly won the first round, and I would see why people thought Emmers won the second round, because he had a takedown and he held him down for just a little bit, but he wasn't able to do any damage with the takedown and was easily swept, and Chikaze was able to deliver damage in the now dominant position that Emmers put himself into by taking him down and not being able to secure any kind of. He had no balance in the position. He was not in a dominant position for his skill level. So he put himself in a bad position. So I could understand how people at first were like, "Yo, he had him on the ground for a longer time," but like, he didn't do any damage. So basically, that takedown was pretty much nullified when I looked back on it. So at that point, I would say there is no bad judging, but people were saying that going into it. So, but going back, I would say judging was pretty straight. I was trying to go live on YouTube and just like post like me reacting to the fights live, and I was like having difficulty. I thought like I couldn't hear the audio in my headphones. And I'm watching the video and I'm streaming from my laptop, and I thought like there was no audio because I couldn't hear it on my headphones, so I shut it off, and it was just like, and then I watched it back and there was audio, and then I tried again, and then it wasn't picking up audio on my microphone. So And then I was just like, I'm gonna miss this fight if I keep messing around with this, because the first round is starting at this point. The first round's happening, so I'm like, I'm over this, and I shut it off. So I'm half-ass watching the first round, but I'm watching it, and I'm seeing that they're both trading like some hard shots. But from what it looked like to me in the first round, Zhang was landing more like of the harder shots. Like her shots seem to be like really stopping Joanna. Like they seem to be doing a little more damage, and then. So by the end of the second round, I'm thinking Zhang is clearly like ahead by the end of the second round. Joanna headbutted Zhang going into the like at the end of the second. She kind of like, I don't know if it was intentional, but she headbutted Zhang, and then like it really dazed Zhang, like, and Joanna was able to get some good hits in there and was almost able to end the fight if time permitted. And this, well, because Zhang was so dazed by the headbutt. And then when the bell went off, like Zhang's coach ran in and like picked her up and carried her to their corner. And they all like made sure she had her wits about her. And then like, we're like, all right, now you can sit down. You're okay now. Like, but they could all see like right away she was fucked up from the headbutt. And so that almost like that pretty much could have ended the fight right there. Just like 2 weeks, that would have been 2 weeks in a row where like title fights were pretty much decided off of headbutts. Yeah, so Joanna headbutted her at the end, was able to get some good offense in it. Third round, Zhang, they're trading. They're trading. All right, this is at this point, the commentators are already talking about this is an automatic Hall of Fame fight in the third round of this fight between Zhang Weili and Joanna. And by the end of the third round, Joanna has this, at the time, I would say a decent sized hematoma. All right, decent sized hematoma. A knot, if you will. She had this big ass knot on her head. And that's KNOT. And I'm like, oh shit, all right. All she gotta do is bust that knot wide open, and the ref's gonna come in and stop it. You know, because the refs came in and looked at it anyway, because she had this big ass knot on her forehead. But they were like, all right, nah, she cool, she can go in. Zhang is just putting it on her, aiming at this big ass knot on her forehead, fucking up her. She breaks her nose, like breaks Joanna's nose, just really like fucking her forehead up. Her head's fucking morphed. She looks like Martin Lawrence when did he fight Tommy Hearns? And when his head was super swollen and all disfigured, that was Joanna Jacek going into the fifth round already, just fucking completely destroyed. I saw memes on Twitter. Actually, I don't even know the reference. It's some kind of alien, some kind of blue alien. I don't know where it's from now that I think about it. I saw it. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, it's just like she looked like an alien. The top of her head was like super swollen and enlarged. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was weird. She got fucked up. And I was thinking like maybe Joanna had taken the second round, especially with the headbutt and then the clean shots she was able to land thereafter. But Zhang doesn't have any kind of quit in her whatsoever. So the fifth round comes and like Joanna's just like being real hesitant to fight because she can feel just this fucking hematoma just being bigger and bigger with every strike she's taking. Every punch that Zhang is just cleanly, just not slowing down at all. Actually catching a second wind. They thought she was getting tired in like the third, but right now she's got the second wind and she's fucking lighting Joanna up. And that she's really dysmorphing her fucking head. And You can look it up, and there's all kinds of memes of Joanna of what she looked like going in and what she looked like afterwards. Like, it's insane. She just fucking beat the shit out of her. Zhang wins the fight by unanimous decision. One judge, or it said unanimous decision, but one judge apparently gave it to Joanna, judged it for Joanna. So that sounds like, to me, majority decision, but for whatever reason, they ruled it unanimous decision. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know what that, I'm wrong, I guess. But that's what they said. So, yeah, she beat the shit out of Joanna, and I was pretty happy about that. Everybody was saying that it's like instantly in the Hall of Fame. It was given a Fight of the Night honors. It was pretty fucking amazing. Automatic Hall of Fame fight. Easily one of the best fights I've ever seen. I was trying to tell motherfuckers that Zhang Weili reminds me of Valentina Shevchenko. And cats were saying, like, oh, she's not ready. They were saying that clearly Zhang... Well, one, they're saying Zhang isn't on Valentina Shevchenko's level, clearly because, well, the experience difference. You know what I'm saying? The competition level that they've been facing. So they're saying clearly she's not on that level. And they're saying that Joanna just went 5 rounds with Valentina Shevchenko, who is considered the best fighter in the world. It's probably one of my favorite fighters in my top 3. I was just talking to my boy Matt about. Shout out Matt Ahern. And so Shevchenko's one of my favorite fighters. And they were saying, well, clearly she just went 5 rounds with Shevchenko. And Shevchenko was not able to do that kind of damage to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And you saw that she was about to stop Joanna. I'm certain she was going to stop Joanna. Give it one more round, she's going to stop Joanna. She was starting to come on in the 5th round. She's really starting to put it on her. And it was beautiful. All right? It's beautiful. We found a star. And apparently they were saying right before the fight, the video of Zhang Weili telling Joanna to shut up was the highest searched thing. It was searched more than the coronavirus. That video alone was searched more than the coronavirus. So they got a superstar on him. And that was one hell of a fight. If it's probably automatically fight of the year. Let me look at my list. I was writing a list. So far, it's only 2 fights. I think I gotta update it. Maybe I put Paul Felder versus Dan Hooker and Joseph Benavidez versus Davison Figueiredo as my fight of the year candidates. But what fights have happened so far this year? I gotta go back and look it up. I think I gotta update it. I think I'm missing out on some fights in there. But this is probably, so far, this is, from what I can remember, this is fight of the year. And I only put those fights down, so maybe I just, for whatever reason, forgot to. But shout out to Zhang Weili, all right, because she made Joanna's head look like as if she was wearing a gas mask, you know? So bravo to Zhang Weili. Jump into the main event. Before we get to the main event, shout out to Gerald Mearshart, who beat Deron Wynn via, rear naked choke. Got him down, took his back, choked that man out. Shout out to Gerald Mearshart. Shout out to Sugar Sean O'Malley. Made his return after pretty much 2 years suspended by USADA over a tainted supplement. Made his return. Still undefeated, dominant, beat Jose Quinones. Shout out to Sugar Sean O'Malley. All right, we're going to jump into the main event here. Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. So I'm just going to say, I was listening to Dana White talk about, after the fight. I was listening to him talk after the fight about this fight, and he was like, matchmakers didn't want to make this fight. Nobody in charge, wanted to make this fight, and he was like, and then one day, just like the fan in me was like, you know what, that'd be a good fight, and I pushed for it, and he's like, and then we had that fight, and now we see why nobody wanted to push for it, like nobody wanted to see that fight go on. The fight starts, and for whatever reason, Yoel Romero just like kind of stands in one spot and just like is saying, "Come on," to to Israel, and he just wants him to come at him and attack him, and he's just standing in one spot, and Israel's like moving like around him, just and he's just standing there like, "Come on, come to me," like, and it just starts. He just stands there for like a minute, and it's just weird. It's a weird way to start the fight. And then about like maybe about with less than about 2 minutes to go, Yoel lands this clean overhand on Israel Adesanya and kind of rocks him a bit. And it was like, oh shit, okay. Like he's just standing there, and his plan is just to catch him. He had great timing. He had great timing. At the time that Israel was like, fuck, Israel's just like, dude, what the fuck, like. He's just coming in and finally just like trying to attack him because Yoel is not fighting. Yoel is just like waiting there, just like come and attack me. And he just catches Israel. Israel moves in and he catches Israel with this overhand. A little less than 2 minutes left. And then he also lands like a heavy body kick like on Israel. Like right before the round ends. So the round ends with only 4 strikes thrown by Yoel Romero and 3 strikes thrown by Israel Adesanya. If this is painting the picture of how much action is going here. The crowd is booing. The ref, Dan Murgliata, I'm just jumping ahead here. Before the third, he brings these guys in and he's like, come on, guys, this is a championship fight. We got to give these judges something to judge. And he's like trying to coach these people to fight. And it's like, bro, you're overstepping your authority. Like, there's like game plans, there's all kinds of shit. And you're like, throw that shit aside and put on an entertaining fight? Like, who are you, bro? Who are you? But anywho, all right, second round. Yoel lands another heavy overhand in the second. But Adesanya starts to touch him up, find his rhythm. All right? Starts touching him up. Romero blitzes Izzy and like catches his leg and then just like fucking like just like gets him up against the fence like and is just like holding his leg and just I think pretty sure he's like holding his leg, but he gets him up against the fence and just lands like 5 or 6 clean shots on Adesanya's head. It was like, oh shit, he might actually knock out Israel Adesanya. Because he had him up against the fence, just really fucking him up. But Israel was able to slink out of there. So I gave the first 2 rounds to Yoel Romero, actually. Pretty much because there was, like, not a lot of activity. But then, as Yoel is known, he blitzes on you. And that's what he did in here. And so I gave him those 2 rounds because pretty much Israel was being very cautious. After, once he finally moves in the first, he gets caught overhand. Moves in, like, again, gets caught with a heavy body kick. Moves in again, gets caught with the overhand in the second. Moves in again, gets blitzed right here, and gets hit clean, like 5 or 6 times. So, he was being real patient, in the first 2 rounds. And even when he was taking risks, he was kind of paying for those risks. So I gave the first 2 rounds to Romero. Third round happens. Nothing too exciting other than Adesanya is really lighting up Yoel Romero's lead leg. He's lighting it up like nonstop leg kicks, and he's really hurting Yoel Romero with these leg kicks. It's just like dotted up. You can see it. It's like it looks his thigh looks disfigured. It's just all fucking just spotty. Like, or bumpy, it's just like bruised the fuck up. And it's just battered. So that's the third round. And it goes to Adesanya, if I was judging that. Yeah, and this is when the ref. So this is going into the fourth when the ref coaches them to when he brings them together to tell them give the judges something to judge. And then throughout like the rest of the fight, he's just like, "Come on, gentlemen!" Like he's just like trying to yell at them instructions on like more activity. Like and it's like you can if they literally are not fighting at all, if they're standing there. Like there was the Derek Lewis Francis Ngannou where they were just like circling around each other, not really throwing any punches. But in this one, Israel was like sitting there trying to do things, but like Yoel just basically didn't want to fight, is what it seemed like. So it's like, who are you to like bring them together and be like, give the judges something to judge? Like he was overstepping his boundaries like throughout the fight. There was an eye poke in the fourth round here, and I thought Romero was going to play it off to try to win the fight because I felt like at that point he had won the majority of the rounds. This was kind of early on in the fourth round that he got his eye poke. So the doctors came in and then they allowed him to keep going. But see, what's crazy is like, so even before the fight, when they did the weigh-ins and they did stare downs, you can see this like you can see like there's like something, there's already some damage to Yoel Romero's eye. He's already compromised a little bit. So I thought the doctors were going to stop the fight when they came in for the eye poke in round 4, but they came in, looked at him, and he said he can see, and they were like, all right, cool. They let him fight. But it looked like he was already compromised, you know, going into it. But somehow doctors let it go on, and Yoel didn't take the easy way out. Man, I feel like he could have said, "Oh, I can't continue," and I think with the new rules, it would have gone to the scorecards in Las Vegas. I think that's how that goes. It's different rules depending on which state you fight in, which is pretty stupid. Yeah, so Romero's leg looks pretty fucking nasty by the end of the fourth. And there's not too much action in the fifth other than Adesanya just continues to completely dismantle Romero. Romero doesn't come at him. He doesn't really like go for it. So I gave Adesanya the last 3, and I gave Romero 2, and Adesanya wins by unanimous decision. Yoel cries after the fight and says like, if you want to see running, go see Usain Bolt. And like a real champ would stand in the middle and trade with me. Like he's crying after the fight, and then it's just like, and then I go back to Dana saying people didn't want to book this fight, and you see it, and you're like, this is why nobody wanted to book this fight. Like Yoel is coming off of 2-fight losing streak. All right, he's coming off 2-fight losing streak, and well now it's 3-fight losing streak. He's 42 years old. Nobody wanted to book this fight, but Israel asked for it, so they just said, let's do it. And it turned out to be exactly as the people who didn't want to book it thought it would turn out to be. And people were booing throughout. It was just booed throughout. Yoel was complaining throughout that Israel just ran, and it's like, dude, you just stood there and didn't fight. You literally just stood there for 1 minute. You stood in one spot for 1 minute saying, come on. It's pretty weird. I was like, are you trying to like pretend you're Anderson Silva or something? That's what I felt like he was trying to pretend he was Anderson Silva or something. Adesanya wasn't too happy with the performance, but afterwards he's like, I can't do anything if my opponent doesn't want to dance. You know, my dance partner has to want to dance. If they don't, then I can't really get anything done. And that's how I saw it. I saw Yoel not wanting to engage. Other than he was trying. But see, so he was trying to catch him early on, and he was, but once Adesanya was really tearing up that leg, it automatically slowed him down. It slowed down his explosiveness, so he couldn't really catch him in the way that he was earlier in the fight because he was compromised. So, shout out to Stylebender for his amazing game plan. People booed him. And they're trying to say, like, because Paulo Costa was there, and everyone's trying to say, like, Fucking Blake Shelton was there, and he's like, mark my words, Paulo Costa is gonna knock Israel Adesanya out. Well, fuck Blake Shelton. Fuck Blake Shelton. First off, what's going to happen is Paulo Costa is going to play directly into the game that Israel Adesanya plays, and he's going to keep coming forward on Adesanya. Adesanya is a counter striker, and the whole reason why nobody wanted to see this fight and nobody wanted to book Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya is because they're both counter strikers. That's the reason why Yoel Romero starts the fight and just stands in one spot and says, "Come on, come here." And Adesanya is moving around him like, dude, what the fuck? Like, come at me. Like, let's fight. And but because they both want to counter the other person, that's why nobody wanted to book this. So if they book a more favorable matchup for Israel Adesanya, I can't wait. I hope this fight makes the Vegas odd makers make Costa the favorite. That would be beautiful. Make Costa the favorite. Make it look that way. And everybody better bet the fucking house on Israel Adesanya. Bet that he finishes that man. Don't just bet on his name, bet on a finish. Alright? If they book Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa, bet that Israel Adesanya finishes that man. Telling you that right now. Unless USADA finishes Paulo Costa first. That could happen. I'm going to move on to... I was taking notes on Monday. I wanted to talk about this. And I was curious. Are some of these notes dated? Should I move past these notes? Let's see. Let's try one out here. What exactly happens if your golden boy isn't handed the nomination? Huh? What exactly happens, all right? What if Bloomberg wins the nomination? Is that dated? Does that work? What if Biden wins? I threw Bloomberg in because I thought that was more likely. I remember when I wrote that note on Monday, I was kind of under the impression, like I threw Biden in there because I was trying to think, like, is Biden even still in this? When I wrote that on Monday, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to remember, like, is Joe Biden even in the race still? And I wrote this with the question of, like, knowing now, Bloomberg is out of the race, Warren's out of the race. I'm jumping around here. Warren's out of the race. But my question was, back in the day, a little while ago when Andrew Yang dropped out, I was like, yo, I'm out of this race. I'm not voting, is what I said. And everybody jumped down. There was a lot of people who jumped on me like, yo, you're crazy, man. Like, you have to get out here and vote. Like, and they were saying, like, the main thing is that is defeating Trump. All right? That was the one thing that they all kept repeating. They would all repeat, well, Bernie is the closest to Yang. They would say that, and then they would repeat that defeating Trump is the most important thing. All right? That's what they would repeat. So I wrote that question in mind thinking like Bloomberg might get the nomination, but it actually turned out to be creepy Joe Biden. All right? Turned out. Well, I mean, it didn't turn out. Here we are. All right? It's, what is it? The 7th? Oh, it's March 8th. March 8th. All right? It's March 8th. All right? Joe didn't win anything yet. He didn't win anything. I mean, he won some things, but he hasn't won the nomination yet. All right? He hasn't won the nomination. My questions that I wrote were, should we just ignore the fact that these people are basically the same people? Meaning, like, if the main goal is simply to defeat Trump. But I'm of the opinion that Donald Trump and Bloomberg and Biden and all these people are pretty much the same thing. Like, we just ignore that fact? If I thought that Hillary and Trump were basically the same thing back in 2016. And a lot of people felt that. I don't understand why people were like, well, just ignore that fact. Well, I can't ignore this fact. I don't think we should ignore that fact. So here we are. Super Tuesday happened. Biden fucking cleaned house, homeboy. He did a great job out here. He won 10 states, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Bernie won 3. Warren's camp said leading up to Super Tuesday that the most important thing was to take away steam from Bernie, and then they dropped out of the race right after Super Tuesday. She dropped out of the race after her camp stated that going into Super Tuesday. Bernie has stated that if Biden gains plurality, I think I was like, I don't want to say this wrong, he will drop out of the race, which is, if he gets the majority of the votes, or if he gets the majority of the delegates but not the nomination, then Bernie will drop out. And so at this point, March 8th, as I look it up, Joe Biden has 664 delegates, and Bernie Sanders has 573. You need 1,991 delegates to secure the nomination. There's some people voting. There's some states voting this Tuesday. I don't really care who. I'm just curious because, people jumped on me when I said I was out after my boy Yang, and it's a selfish reason to be out. My boy's out and I'm out, right? That's pretty selfish. I understand their feelings on it. I understand it. And I took my stance understanding that people would take their stance on it. But I respect, it's whatever. I knew that, I took my stance knowing what the response would be because it was my stance. All right? Because it was my stance. All right? But I've already started to see some of the same people who jumped on me talk about how they won't vote for Joe Biden. All right? I've seen all these same people share memes and just post statuses about how they're just not about Joe Biden if he's given the fucking nomination. And it's but I thought the main thing was just that we all have to go out there and vote and defeat Donald Trump. All right? That was the main thing a second ago. But now you're telling me right now that you're not going to vote for this guy if you're not going to vote if your guy doesn't do it? I thought that wasn't the thing. I thought that's not what we were talking about. I thought we were talking about how important our voices were and how important it was to defeat this guy. And now since you're Golden Boy, it now looks like your Golden Boy isn't going to get the nomination, and now it's like you're going back on all that stuff you just said to me about 2 weeks ago. You all have zero integrity is what you're showing, and that was my whole point, was that I wouldn't just simply jump to whoever was the closest to the things. So if when you look into Andrew Yang, you see that most people who did look into him was most of his policies are beneficial to people of color if you looked into his policies. So there were no other candidates that had policies that really could compare to what Andrew Yang was trying to do. It was nothing like what he was trying to talk about. So I stood for something. And I stood for the fact that I wasn't, at that point, I knew that I wasn't for Joe Biden, and nobody championed for Joe Biden. I want to say that. When I said I wasn't going for Yang, when I wasn't going because Yang was out, everybody championed for Bernie Sanders. I had one guy was like, "Well, come over to the Trump side," and that's not happening. But everybody championed for your boy Bernie Sanders, and now it's looking like he's not about to get the nomination. And now those same people who jumped on me and said I have to use my voice and we have to defeat this man are talking about they're not going to vote for the guy that looks like he's about to get the nomination. Why don't you guys stand for something? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. How do you preach that? If I told you I'm not voting for these people, then I'm not voting for these people. I'm not going to one day be like, nah, I'm not voting for Hillary. And then be like, oh, how come nobody voted for Hillary? I mean, she won the majority vote, but it's like, oh, how did niggas not do that? It's like, well, I guess niggas did. I don't know how that works. We just like, nope. We giving it. I mean, you got to win the electoral votes. You know, I do know how it works, actually, but I'm just disgusted, all right? I'm disgusted with you people who I see out here that are talking about you're not for voting for Joe Biden when all I seen you niggas talk about was we just got to get this man out of office. Well, shit. I knew this nigga fucking Joe Biden was a creepy ass nigga back when he was in office, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew this nigga was creepy back then. I knew this nigga was creepy back when he was in office, and I thought it was so weird when all you niggas was like, oh, I love Joe Biden. Cause remember y'all sharing the memes? I know y'all remember that. The memes of Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Y'all niggas was sharing them around talking about how much y'all love Joe Biden, and I'm the only nigga like, this nigga's weird, bro. This nigga's a creep. I saw them videos, like, isn't that shit taking place in the White House? Like, I saw that shit a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? And I always thought this nigga was weird. And I always thought it was weird that motherfuckers was sharing these memes of this weird ass nigga. But y'all was doing it. Talking about, oh, I love Joe Biden. And feeling like y'all knew him for some reason. That shit's weird. It's all the information's there if you want it. And it's all the reasons why I don't trust Hillary. It's there if you want it. If you want it, I guess you gotta go looking for it. But I mean, if you want the information, if you want to know who these people are, as I've said before, I think I've said it here. One time, this lady came to my house like, yo, I don't know. Like, people say there's all these negative things about Hillary, but I haven't heard one thing. Like, what are these negative things about Hillary? And I was so taken back by it because it was like, if you're really at my door supporting this woman and you haven't taken the chance, you haven't taken a second to actually research the negative things people are saying about her, then you're fucking delusional. There's no reason for this conversation to even occur because you're delusional. It's just how I feel about that. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. And if Joe Biden ends up getting the nomination, I mean, whatever. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I don't think there's too much of a difference in Joe Biden and Trump. Joe Biden's talking about he doesn't believe in legalization of marijuana. Nigga, are you crazy? Are you crazy? He's about to set the country back. We gonna see. And then guess what's gonna happen? Guess what's gonna happen after Joe Biden? It's gonna be a fucking wild ass Republican put in office. Cause it's just this cycle, man. It's just how it goes. It's like a game. I don't know. So I want to talk about this here in Milwaukee a couple weeks ago, or about a week or so ago. I'd say a couple weeks ago. We had a shooting here at the Molson Coors factory, the former Miller factory, in the village, the Miller Village. You know, they do tours there. It's usually families and all kinds of shit there. It's usually like a little experience. It's a whole experience there. And this guy shot, I think, about 5 people and then killed himself. And at first they were saying, like, yo, there's no known motive. And then all of a sudden, all these Facebook posts, people were saying like, "Yo, they're super racist in there," and yada yada yada. And then people were saying like, "Yo, please don't put out these reports. We're still trying to figure it out. Like, none of that stuff is true." And then Molson Coors, a rep from Molson Coors, just was like, "Yo, it is true that a noose was found in the gunman's locker 5 years ago. The person that shot these people, there's a noose found in his locker. There's people, I saw reports where they said that people would openly use the N-word to black employees, and they brought it up in a meeting, and it was kind of just like brushed off. Like them bringing up the concern about this, I'm like, this is a problem, was just brushed off, and they just moved on as if it wasn't brought up. I've seen all kinds of reports, and they've confirmed the noose report, and that they're trying to address the situation. But it's like, it's really unfortunate that something like that would happen. You know, I don't know, man. It sounds like, from what I'm reading and all the people I've seen online, it looks like there's just, and they're admitting to this, there's just a history of racial bullying that goes on there. You hear about that in a lot of those big factories. Like, I think there's like the Ford factory in Detroit. You hear about the nooses and all that that's hanging up in there. It's just, it's weird that because people, they're like, oh, it's 2020, things like that don't happen anymore. And it's like, man, this man has been racially targeted and bullied, and like it seems like all the employees there, they said they get segregated from other black employees, and then they're just like treated very poorly. And it's just pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But you see the same thing like in a lot of factories in America. And it is 2020, but that's just what it is. Like, this country didn't just get wild. So that's why when I hear the narrative like, yo, we have to defeat this guy. We have to defeat this guy. Like, what are you talking about? He didn't make things bad. He didn't make things bad. They've always been bad. You just didn't know they were bad. I've been living it. My whole life. They've been bad when Obama was here. They were bad when Bush was here. They were bad when Clinton was here. They were bad when Bush was here. Like, they've always been bad for us at least. And now you know about it. But I don't understand that we gotta beat this guy. It's always been bad. It's always been this bad. It hasn't even gotten worse. It's always been this bad. When The Watchmen came out with that whole Tulsa, Oklahoma thing, and people found out that was like a reenactment of a real event, they were fucking so shocked about it. And it's like, no, man, that wasn't the first time that there was a thriving black community in America that they fucking firebombed and murdered everybody there. That wasn't the first time. It's always been this bad. So I don't understand that narrative that Trump is the boogeyman. So the Molson Coors is complaining, is saying that they had no reports of racial discrimination, any complaints from any employees in any time, but they do admit that there was a noose found in the locker 5 years ago. So it's a lot of they're full of shit there, man. And it's like, you see all the people online reporting about this crazy work environment. And this is right in our backyard, and it's very unfortunate that it happened. But I think there's just a culture that's swept in place. You got these private companies. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know what the how do you fix it, but you got these private companies with these practices that they've been doing for forever, and they're too powerful. It's like, how can you stop it? How can you if you go into a meeting These are fucking engineers and people like that. If you go into a meeting and you're bringing up the fact that people are calling you the N-word and how it makes you uncomfortable and they brush it off, like, in, like, in the course of the last 5 years this happened, like, and it's just weird, man. I don't even know where to go with that. But I'm just telling y'all right now that it's always been this bad. It hasn't gotten any worse. All right, it hasn't gotten any worse lately. It has always been this bad, and that's why this situation here accumulated to whatever it did, because it's always been this bad, and they think people are just gonna keep tolerating hell, is what it seems like. And it's not like, rest in peace to everybody who lost their lives that day. That's a very unfortunate event. I wish none of it happened. I wish people could work in a safe environment, not be racially or bullied in any kind of way at work. Are you out of your mind? Or anywhere in life? Are you bullying people? Fuck out of here, homeboy. Fuck out of here, I'm gay. So coronavirus, widespread panic is what I wrote in here. That's all really the joke I have for that. This is some real shit. They're estimating about 2% of the world's population is probably going to die from coronavirus, which is basically the premise of the show The Leftovers. It's just 2% of the world just disappears, just gone. So they estimate it's about, say, what is it? Or maybe that's just America. It could just be America, because I think it's like, 7.8 billion. So out of there, they were talking about like 450 million people were probably going to die from, about that amount would die from coronavirus. And pretty soon course is here. Let's see what's going on in the world. That's just a number. Italy shut down Milan. About 16 million people put on quarantine, and they have, I think it said, over 100,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus there. Japan basically shut down the school year. They want to just shut down the school year. America is discussing shutting down having the kids come to school and just like having online classes going forward. 32 states in America have coronavirus. I'm not trying to fearmonger here. I'm just trying to like throw out some. I think we thought maybe it was one of those things that it happens and like you got like Ebola and it happens and then it passes. But I think this is a little more serious than that. And I just wanted to talk about it here. I think by not talking about things like this, I'm doing myself, this podcast, and everyone who's listening to this a disservice just by not talking about this thing. I think it's a little more serious, and I think people should take it serious. Trump signed $8 billion emergency plan to try to deal with this. For the $8.3 billion will it'll help pay for vaccines, tests for the virus, and potential treatments. Hopefully they're trying to like really jump on it. Originally, I guess they wanted they suggested $2 billion would be what they needed, but now, like a week later, apparently it's jumped to 8.3 with what they're estimating they would need to address this situation. South by Southwest has officially been canceled this year. 2020 South by Southwest is canceled. The NBA is now talking about playing games in empty arenas going forward. I think UFC was talking about, they just like threw it out there. They probably just wouldn't even have the fight. Probably just cancel fights. But nurses, I've seen articles of nurses in other countries. They're saying that have these quarantines and these restrictions, and they said it's like living in the end of times. I've seen videos, people fighting where there are quarantines, where things are getting bad. People are fighting over toilet paper. They're in the stores fighting over like the last bit of like water, last package of like ramen noodles. It's like things are getting crazy out here, and I don't think people in America I don't think we know. I think we all just assume that this is going to be one of those things like Ebola or whatever, and pretty soon they're going to come out with a new shot, and then it's over. But I don't know. I think we should all take this a little more serious. Personal hygiene is important. Wash your hands all the time. If you're sick, stay home. If you're sick, stay home. U.S. officials have just said Americans should brace for quarantine. So I think you guys should pack up on whatever you could. Who knows how long a quarantine could last? Who knows? This is a serious situation. Who knows? I just figured we should talk about it here, and everybody should really address it. Maybe put away some canned goods, some things that you could really use to survive. Maybe get some like canned veggies, canned meats, whatnot. Something that could get you going, keep you going for like at least a few months. If who knows how long this would be. But I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Give you guys social medias. If you want to follow the podcast at Babylon 5. If you want to follow the podcast on Instagram or Twitter, it's at Babylon 5 Pod. If you want to follow my personal account on Instagram and Twitter, it's at my name's Jermaine. You can email the podcast at babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You can follow the podcast at babylon5.podbean.com. You can listen to the podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, pretty much anywhere that podcasts stream. You can add me on Xbox if you want to play some games. My gamer tag is SauceBoss414. If you want to check out the merch, it's teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And if you guys want to watch me play some games, you want to play some games with me, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, I sound all emotional. If you want to watch me play some games, the link for that is twitch.tv/Babylon5. This is episode 29. I want you guys to, take care of yourself. Go out there and take care of yourself. Enjoy your lives, but take care of yourself. Be safe. It's episode 29. I'm Jermaine Events, and I will see you all next week. Peace.